I'm standing in our new building over on Runway Street this morning to give you an update on our project. As you can see, there's a bit of demo that has occurred, and last week John Looney gave an update that we had to do a little bit of demos to show progress in the overall project so that we weren't liable for property tax. Since we are a nonprofit entity as a church, the progress shows that this is becoming the church, and because of that we didn't have to pay that portion of the property tax. But this morning I wanted to update you on the broader process that we're walking through of making the transition from where we are currently to the Runway property here. It's been a little over a year since we began this process of specifically looking for a building to purchase. God opened the door for us to purchase this building, which will reduce our costs on a monthly basis tremendously, as we will be able to receive rental income and are right now from a tenant that leases some space within the building. So over this last year, we've raised nearly $750,000 for the project. And that has come through your faithful giving, through some outside resources, as well as the liquidation of some assets. Now I know the big question that everyone continues to ask is, when are we moving? And I understand that is the most important question for all of us. As we are continuing to move forward in the process, we are currently in negotiation with the city on our building permits. We received our first review back from the city, which they always come back as they did, with many corrections and additions that we'll have to add in. Our architect's been working hard on that with building and safety and fire, and we should be able to resubmit this next week with the corrections that the city's requested, and then hoping within the next week or two after that to receive some kind of approval so that we can move forward in the process of construction. Now, in talking with our architect, he has mentioned that once he receives the approved permits, that his window of time would be about 4 to 6 months for him to complete the project. So understanding that we're still in negotiation with permits, we are looking at a period of anywhere from 6 to 8 months before we'd probably be able to move to Runway. Now I know right now there's this collective sigh like, wow, 6 to 8 months, it's been such a long journey. And I understand that. We're all ready to make this move. But one of the things that we have to remember and be reminded in this process is that the building does not define who we are. God defines who we are. The building, whether it's on Shasta or on Runway, is simply a vehicle that God wants to use to accomplish His purpose and His mission through us. And so as we move forward in this, one of the things I'd like to encourage us all to do is to exhale, is to undo the pause button. Many times we have these conversations, and I know I'm guilty of these as well, that we say, well, when we get to Runway, when we get to the building, somehow something is going to change and things are going to be different or things are going to be better. And we have to understand that right where we're at, right where we are functioning as a church, is right where God is at work. God is not bound by our address. He is at work in our lives, and therefore we have to be willing to live out what God is doing in our lives now. I'd like to read to you from Jeremiah 29. Now, I'm not going to read verse 11, because verse 11 is what everybody reads. It's many people's favorite verse, their life verse, about God's prospering our plans and giving us a hope and a future, which is a wonderful thing. But to understand even the importance of those words, we have to back up a few verses to verse 5, where we really get the broader context. Jeremiah is writing a letter to a group of exiles, people who have lost their power, they've lost their homes, they've lost their favorite status in society, and now they're in a place that they're a bit undefined. And there's this collective sense of, now what do? Do we just wait? Do we just pause and wait and see what happens? And these are the words that Jeremiah writes to them to encourage them. He says, build houses and settle down, plant gardens and eat what they produce. Marry and have sons and daughters. Find wives for your sons and give your daughters in marriage, so that they too may have sons and daughters. Increase in number there, do not decrease. Also, seek the peace and prosperity of the city to which I have carried you into exile. Pray to the Lord for it, because if it prospers, you too will prosper. Jeremiah was telling the people to live, to go on with their lives, to not wait for the next season, to not hold their breath until God did something else, but to live right where they were at. The same thing is true for us. Whether we are at Shasta or we're at Runway, we are to live out the purpose that God is giving us. We're to embrace this process of recreation that God is working within us as a church family, so that when we arrive here at Runway, We are not looking for the building to define us, but God will have already defined who we are as a people, and therefore we can walk into this vehicle to see the whole new dimension of what God wants to do through us as a church family for our future together.